All right, so one of the most common mistakes that I see players making when they're trying to make their hands faster is doing cooperative volley to volley as their only way of trying to train their volleys and make their hands faster. So I think there's definitely a place for doing volley to volley just in a cooperative way, to use it as a warm-up, to try to get your hands ready to maybe play some games later on. But I think if you actually want to work on your hand speed, trying to get your hands as fast as possible, there is a significantly better drill for you. I do something called the bad dink drill. So it is pretty much as simple as it sounds. When you're playing in a game, if somebody, for example, if you pop up a dink or if your partner pops up a dink, you just have to deal with it. Your opponent's gonna speed it up at you and you have to kind of get yourself out of jail. And I think that's the most realistic way to practice this drill. All right, so for variation 1 of this drill, I'm gonna be feeding him a bad dink. He's gonna be going right at my chest. We're both getting something out of this drill, but it's very different for both of us. So for him, he's gonna go right at my chest every time, but he can work on changing the pace a little bit, sometimes going 70% pace, sometimes going 95. That's okay, because I know it's coming right to my chest every time. And what I'm working on is getting the counter down. So like we always talk about, the most important thing with any volley is not the pace, it is getting the ball down, because if I get the ball down, there's not much he can do with his recounter, which is what Max is working on also. He's going right to my chest. Max is working on dealing with it, because there are going to be some times where you speed it up to somebody, they know it's going to that spot, they sit on it, and you've just got to deal with the next one. So Max is going to be dealing with that recounter, and we're just going to be playing it out as realistic as possible, not cooperative. All right, so the second variation of this drill is Max and I will talk before the drill, and we will agree on 2 specific spots that Max can speed the ball up to. So in this case, Max will be going either to my wide sideline to make me reach for the backhand, or he will go right at my right shoulder. Those are the 2 spots Max can go to, and I'm gonna feed him a bad dink, and I've just gotta figure it out, and we play it out from there. All right, so now we're gonna do variation 3. This is the most realistic way to do this, and personally my favorite way to do this. I'm going to pop up a dink to Max, feeding it out of the hand as always, and he's just gonna speed it up at me, and we're gonna play it out. So one thing I think that we should focus on here, make sure that, for Max at least, when Max goes right at the chest, he can be more aggressive with how hard he hits the ball, because that is the hardest to get out of the way of. Very tough to get out of the way, especially for me if it's at my left shoulder. If you're going against a righty, I think the hardest area to get out of the way of is the left shoulder, because players tend to leave the ball like this instead of this, right? Their dominant arm is what's gonna be kind of coming backward. Other thing is, if he goes wide, gotta make it. It's very easy for me to get out of the way of that one, so you gotta hope that one's going in. Same thing with the right shoulder, and ultimately for me, the worse my dink is, the more likely I will be to come off the line. And I'm not trying to hit it as hard as I can here, I'm just trying to get it down. If you get your counter down, you're gonna be in a good spot. So that is the bad dink drill. So what we're gonna talk about now is a couple things that Max was trying to do when he was speeding it up at me. What are some things that you were looking to focus on? Where were you trying to attack me? Maybe different paces, different spins? What's going through your head?
For me, mostly I'm just focused on my disguise. So my backhand, I like to open my paddle face a little, like I am going straight up the line, and then I'm pretty comfortable flicking it across my body last minute, able to go both ways with it. Similar on the forehand side, I like to show middle and then sometimes flick it across the other way. As James has mentioned, obviously it needs to be hit at very different speeds depending on what targets you're hitting at. Hardest definitely the chest. I even tried going as hard as I could a couple times. Didn't work on him, but it might work on some people.